On January 23, 2025, reports emerged indicating that the Trump administration is contemplating the appointment of hedge fund veteran Kyle Bass for significant roles within either the Treasury Department or the Defense Department. Bass, renowned for his critical stance on China and his expertise in investment strategies, has been identified as a potential candidate who could influence U.S. economic and defense policies, particularly concerning the ongoing tensions with Beijing. Kyle Bass, a profile. Kyle Bass, the founder of Hayman Capital Management, gained significant recognition during the 2008 financial crisis when he successfully predicted the collapse of the subprime mortgage market. His investment strategies have earned him a reputation as a savvy investor, but it is his vocal criticisms of China that have positioned him as a prominent China hawk. Bass has consistently advocated for a tougher U.S. stance on China, focusing on issues such as trade practices, intellectual property theft, and geopolitical maneuvers. His views align closely with the Trump administration's previous policies, which emphasized a hardline approach toward Beijing. Potential roles and implications. The consideration of Bass for positions in the Treasury or Defense Department carries substantial implications for U.S. policy. Treasury Department. In this role, Bass would oversee economic policies, including sanctions against foreign entities. Given his financial background and understanding of global markets, he could potentially advocate for measures that would further constrain China's economic influence. Defense Department. Alternatively, a role here would involve direct oversight of military readiness and international relations. Bass's hawkish views on China could inform defense strategies, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, where U.S. China tensions have escalated in recent years. Context of consideration. This consideration comes at a time of heightened scrutiny of Chinese practices in trade security and technology. The Trump administration's focus on national security, economic stability, and a firm stance against perceived adversaries aligns with Bass's perspectives. His appointment could indicate a continuation of the administration's policies aimed at countering China's influence globally. Responses and reactions. While official responses from the Trump administration or political figures regarding Bass's potential appointment have not been extensively reported, his candidacy is likely to generate considerable discussion. Bass's controversial views, particularly regarding China, suggest that his selection could lead to divided opinions among lawmakers and the public. Supporters may view him as a necessary voice for a tougher stance on China, while critics might express concerns over the implications of his policies on international relations and economic stability. Coverage across sources. Bloomberg highlighted the direct consideration of Bass for key roles but did not delve deeply into the potential implications or reactions. Yahoo Finance provided a more analytical perspective, discussing how Bass's financial expertise and hawkish stance might influence both U.S. economic and foreign policy. Bloomberg Markets reiterated the core news without additional commentary, focusing solely on the facts surrounding Bass's consideration. Conclusion. The potential appointment of Kyle Bass reflects the Trump administration's ongoing focus on addressing challenges posed by China through economic and defense strategies. Given Bass's background as a hedge fund manager and his outspoken views on national security, his role could significantly shape U.S. policies toward Beijing in the coming years. As the administration continues to navigate complex international relations and economic challenges, Bass's expertise may play a crucial role in determining the direction of U.S. policy in a rapidly changing global landscape. The Trump administration's consideration of hedge fund veteran Kyle Bass for a significant role within the Treasury or Defense Department presents several counterintuitive aspects. 1. Investment background versus government role. Typically, hedge fund managers are viewed as financially motivated individuals whose primary focus is profit maximization. However, the Trump administration's interest in Bass suggests a blending of financial acumen with national security interests. This contrasts with the traditional perception that governmental roles, especially in defense and economics, require a more public service-oriented background. The idea that a hedge fund manager known for his financial strategies might directly influence U.S. policy towards China is unexpected. 2. China hawk perspective. Kyle Bass is characterized as a China hawk advocating for a strong stance against China. This stance aligns with the Trump administration's previous policies but raises the question of whether such a hawkish approach is beneficial for U.S. interests. The counterintuitive element here is the belief that engaging with China through economic and diplomatic channels could yield better long-term results, while the Trump administration appears to favor a confrontational approach. Bass's appointment could thus be seen as an endorsement of a divisive and aggressive policy direction, which may not resonate universally even within the Republican Party. 3. Potential backlash from financial community. Bass's controversial investment strategies and outspoken commentary on China could alienate segments of the financial community. The notion that someone with a polarizing reputation could be placed in a position of influence within the government is counter to the expectation that appointees should have broad support from relevant stakeholders. This might lead to friction between financial markets and governmental economic policy, particularly if Bass's views provoke volatility or unrest in U.S. China relations. 4. Contradiction with economic stability goals. Appointing a known critic of China to a high-ranking economic position could contradict the administration's stated goals of promoting economic stability and growth. While tough rhetoric might be politically appealing, the actual economic implications of a hardline approach could be detrimental, particularly in areas like trade, where China plays a crucial role. This creates a paradox where the selection of a China hawk could undermine the economic objectives that the administration purports to pursue. 5. Influence on defense policy. If appointed to the Defense Department, Bass's financial background may not traditionally align with military strategy and defense policy formulation. This contrasts with the expectation that such roles should be filled by individuals with military or diplomatic experience. The potential for a hedge fund manager to shape defense policies, especially towards a complex geopolitical adversary like China, is a significant deviation from norms that prioritize military experience in such positions. In summary, the consideration of Kyle Bass for a role in the Trump administration highlights counterintuitive dynamics between the traditional expectations of government roles, particularly in economic and defense contexts, and the realities of political appointments that may prioritize specific ideological alignments over conventional qualifications. The potential consideration of hedge fund veteran Kyle Bass for a position in the Trump administration's Treasury or Defense Department is noteworthy for several reasons, particularly regarding national security and economic policy towards China. While the general news coverage has highlighted key aspects such as Bass's investment background and his hawkish views on China, there are significant implications and nuances that many may overlook. Overlooked significance of Kyle Bass's potential appointment. 1. Contextualizing China hawk stance. Bass's designation as a China hawk is more than just a label. It encapsulates a specific ideological approach to U.S. China relations that prioritizes national security concerns over economic cooperation. This hardline stance could influence a range of policies, including sanctions, trade agreements, and military alliances in Asia. The broader implications of this perspective may lead to a more confrontational U.S. posture towards China, which could escalate tensions and provoke retaliatory measures from Beijing. Observers should consider how this hardline approach may affect not only bilateral relations but also global economic dynamics. 2. Impact on U.S. economic policy. If appointed, Bass could leverage his financial expertise to craft policies that directly affect U.S. economic interests. His history of successful investments, particularly during the 2008 financial crisis, could inform his approach to economic strategies, potentially leading to aggressive economic measures against perceived threats from China. However, this could also risk alienating U.S. allies who benefit from economic relations with China. The potential fallout of such policies may go underreported, as discussions often focus on immediate impacts rather than long-term global economic shifts. 3. Reactions from financial markets. The financial markets are likely to react to the news of Base's potential appointment, but the extent and nature of these reactions can be understated in general discourse. Market participants often respond to anticipated policies and regulatory changes, and Base's hawkish views might create volatility in sectors reliant on trade with China, such as technology and agriculture. Investors might ramp up their strategies to hedge against potential economic disruptions, which could lead to broader market repercussions that analysts may not fully anticipate. 4. The role of investment strategies in governance. Base's background as a hedge fund manager raises questions about the intersection of finance and governance. His success is rooted in speculative strategies that may not align with sound public policy practices. The infusion of hedge fund mentality into government roles may prioritize short-term gains over long-term strategic stability, potentially leading to policies that prioritize profit over public welfare or international diplomacy. This shift could have profound implications for how economic policies are shaped and enacted. 5. Potential for domestic political fallout. The appointment of a figure like Base could also have significant domestic political consequences. His controversial opinions on China may galvanize opposition from various political factions, creating a polarized environment in Congress. This could hinder bipartisan efforts to address pressing issues, as lawmakers may react to Base's views with increased skepticism or hostility. The potential for heightened partisanship surrounding his appointment may be overlooked, as the focus tends to remain on international implications. 6. Long-term strategic vision. Base's potential influence in either the Treasury or Defense Department could signal a shift in the U.S. strategic vision regarding Asia. His past statements suggest a prioritization of military readiness and economic decoupling from China, which could have long-lasting implications for U.S. engagement in the region. The nuances of how this shift might reshape alliances, trade relationships, and military commitments are crucial yet often underexplored. 7. Global reactions and alliances. The international community's response to Base's appointment, or even the contemplation of such an appointment, could be significant. Allies in the Asia-Pacific region may reassess their own strategies in response to a strengthened U.S. stance against China, potentially leading to shifts in regional alliances. The dynamics of these relationships are complex and may not be adequately covered in initial reports, which tend to focus on U.S. perspectives. 8. Implications for human rights and global governance. Base's hawkish stance on China also raises questions about human rights and global governance frameworks. A more confrontational approach may exacerbate existing tensions related to human rights abuses in China, including issues in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. How the U.S. balances its economic interests with advocacy for human rights under Base's influence could be an under-discussed but critical aspect of his potential role. Conclusion. The consideration of Kyle Base for a role in the Trump administration is a multifaceted issue that extends beyond his financial acumen and hawkish views on China. The potential implications for U.S. foreign and economic policy, market reactions, domestic political dynamics, and international relations warrant deeper examination. As discussions continue, it is essential to recognize the broader context and potential ramifications of his appointment, which may shape U.S. policy in significant ways for years to come. 1. Kyle Base's profile and expertise. Kyle Base has established himself as a prominent hedge fund manager, particularly known for his foresight during the 2008 financial crisis. His expertise in financial markets, combined with his critical stance on China, positions him as a significant figure in discussions surrounding U.S. economic policy and national security. His reputation as a China hawk aligns closely with the Trump administration's approach to foreign relations, particularly in terms of economic sanctions and military readiness. Analyzing Base's investment strategies and past predictions could provide insights into how his financial acumen might influence U.S. policymaking. 2. Potential impact on U.S. China relations. The consideration of base for a role in either the Treasury or Defense Department signals a potential continuation of the Trump administration's aggressive posture towards China. This includes a focus on trade disputes, technological competition, and military readiness. An in-depth analysis of this potential appointment could explore how Base's hawkish views may shape future U.S. policies, including economic sanctions, trade restrictions, and military alliances in Asia. The implications of his appointment on global markets and the geopolitical landscape would also be critical areas for discussion. 3. Strategic context of Base's consideration. The backdrop of Kyle Base's potential appointment is a period of heightened tensions between the U.S. and China, marked by trade wars and increasing military confrontations in the Asia-Pacific region. Analyzing the broader strategic context, including the domestic and international factors influencing this consideration, would be essential. This includes the political landscape within the Trump administration, public sentiment towards China, and the implications for U.S. allies and adversaries. Understanding these dynamics can provide a clearer picture of how Base's potential role could fit into the administration's overall strategy. 4. Reactions and controversies. Given Base's controversial views and investment methods, his potential appointment could elicit varied reactions from political figures, economists, and the public. Examining the anticipated responses and the political discourse surrounding his candidacy would be valuable for understanding the implications of his appointment. This includes potential backlash from those who oppose his views on China, as well as support from those who advocate for a tougher stance. The impact of public perception on the administration's decision-making process and on future U.S. foreign policy could be a significant area for analysis and discussion. 1. The appointment of Paul Volcker as Federal Reserve Chairman. 1979, Paul Volcker, a well-known economist and central banker, was appointed by President Jimmy Carter and later reappointed by Ronald Reagan. His tenure was marked by an aggressive stance against inflation, which was a major issue in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Volcker implemented high interest rates to combat inflation, leading to a recession but ultimately stabilizing the economy. Volcker's focus on economic policy and his willingness to take controversial decisions resonate with the potential appointment of Kyle Base, who is also known for his strong views on economic issues, particularly regarding China. 2. The selection of John Bolton as National Security Advisor. 2018. John Bolton, a prominent figure known for his hawkish views on foreign policy, particularly towards Iran and North Korea, was appointed by President Donald Trump as National Security Advisor. His appointment signaled a shift towards a more aggressive U.S. foreign policy. Bolton's strong stance on defense and national security mirrors Kyle Base's hardline approach to China, indicating a clear direction in U.S. policy that prioritizes confrontation over diplomacy. 3. The appointment of Robert Lighthizer as U.S. Trade Representative. 2017. Robert Lighthizer, a trade attorney with a history of advocating for tough trade policies, was nominated by President Trump to lead U.S. trade negotiations. His role was crucial in reshaping trade relations with China, particularly through the implementation of tariffs and renegotiating trade agreements. Lighthizer's focus on protecting American economic interests aligns closely with Kyle Base's investment strategies and his critical views on China, reflecting a similar approach to economic policy that prioritizes national interests. The potential appointment of Kyle Base in the Trump administration highlights significant trends in future outlooks in U.S. economic and foreign policy, especially regarding relations with China. Here are some predictions for the future based on this development. 1. Continued hardline policy towards China. If Base is appointed, we can expect a sustained and possibly intensified hardline approach towards China. Base's reputation as a China hawk aligns with the administration's previous stance, which has included tariff sanctions and an emphasis on national security concerns regarding Chinese technology and investments. This may result in further economic decoupling between the U.S. and China, impacting global supply chains and trade dynamics. 2. Focus on economic nationalism. With Base's background in hedge fund management and investment, his role could steer economic policy towards nationalism, prioritizing U.S. interests in trade negotiations and economic partnerships. This might involve re-evaluating existing trade agreements and implementing more stringent measures against perceived unfair trade practices by China. The administration may seek to bolster domestic manufacturing and technology sectors to reduce reliance on Chinese goods. 3. Increased military preparedness. If Base takes a role in the Defense Department, we may see an elevation in military preparedness and strategic initiatives in the Indo-Pacific region. This could include increased military exercises, greater defense spending, and enhanced partnerships with allies in the region such as Japan, South Korea, and Australia, aiming to counter Chinese military assertiveness. 4. Investment in technology and cybersecurity. Given Base's investment background, his influence could lead to an uptick in government investment in technology sectors, particularly those related to cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. The administration may prioritize funding for domestic tech companies and emphasize initiatives to secure U.S. technological superiority over China, creating a competitive edge in critical technologies. 5. Geopolitical tensions. With a hawkish figure like Base in a key position, we might witness rising geopolitical tensions not only with China but also with other nations that align with Beijing. This could manifest in more aggressive diplomatic posturing, sanctions, and potential conflicts over trade routes, territorial disputes in the South China Sea and Taiwan. 6. Economic implications for markets. The financial markets may react strongly to Base's appointment, particularly in sectors sensitive to U.S. China relations, like technology and manufacturing. Investors could see increased volatility as the market adjusts to new policies and potential sanctions that could affect multinational corporations operating in China. 7. Impact on U.S. domestic politics. Base's controversial positions may provoke strong responses from political opponents and advocacy groups, leading to a polarized political environment. This could affect legislative discussions on economic policies and foreign relations, resulting in potential roadblocks for the administration's initiatives. 8. Long-term strategic realignment. The potential shift in U.S. policy under Base's influence may contribute to a broader realignment of international alliances. Countries in Southeast Asia and Europe may re-evaluate their positions and partnerships in light of a more aggressive U.S. stance against China, potentially leading to new coalitions aimed at countering Chinese influence. In summary, the consideration of Base for a significant role within the Trump administration signals a future characterized by a firm stance against China, with implications for economic policy, military strategy, and international relations. These developments will shape the U.S.'s role on the global stage in the coming years, influencing not just bilateral relations with China but also the dynamics of international trade and security.